Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving into something super powerful in Spring Framework, Spring AOP, or Aspect-Oriented Programming. If you've ever wondered how to add logging, security checks, or performance tracking without touching your core business logic, this is for you. Let's get into it. Imagine you're writing a Spring application. You have methods for payments, orders, user management, all good. But now you want to add logging security transaction management exception handling. If you add these inside every method, your code becomes messy, right? That's where AOP comes to the rescue. AOP allows you to write such common tasks separately and apply them automatically wherever needed. Spring AOP has some cool building blocks. Let me simplify them. Aspect A class that contains cross-cutting logic. Example, logging aspect, join point. A point in program execution, like method calls. Pointcut a rule that decides which methods the aspect should apply to. Advice, the actual action you want to run. There are types: before advice, after advice, around advice. After returning after throwing together, these let you inject logic without touching your business code. Okay, let's dive into the code, which will explain the different terms in the aspect-oriented programming. Let's create a student DAO classes. And in that class, we will create a retrieve student details method. Also, we create a student class to hold the student details. Created fields for name, age and address in student class. Now we will set the student object in retrieve class and keep argument construct for initializing the class using Lombok. I'm setting the value as Romy age 10 and the address as Delhi. Next, we write a calculate student fee method, which simply return a float value. This is for just demo. In real application, we call the database call. Now we write the student service class, which call the DAO layer methods, retrieve students and calculate fee methods. Now we will implement the command line runner interface and override the run method and log the values of calculate fee and student details. If you see the console log, you can student detail and fee is printed. Imagine you have certain methods that only admins should touch. Things like deleting data, updating rules, or accessing sensitive reports. Before those methods run, this AOP advice jumps in like a security guard and checks. Is the user an admin? If yes, the method continues normally. If not, boom, the execution stops right there. The method never runs dot. We point the advice at our service layer using execution, and we can give the exact path of package need to be intercepted here, M, giving service layer. If you run the class, you can see the before method intercepting the service calls, and it is printing the intercept calls for calculating fee and getting student details. Now we add the joint point. It captures the method details using the join point and logs an informational message showing which method is being invoked. This is useful for tracking, monitoring, and debugging all service layer method calls by printing their signature before the actual method executes. So imagine your method just finished doing its job, maybe fetching data, saving something, or calculating a result. And everything went perfectly. No errors. Right after that method completes, boom! This at after returning advice jumps in. What does it do? It basically sneaks in behind the scenes and says, the method ran successfully. Here's the method that was called. And here's what it returned. We get the join point. That's like our backstage pass telling us which method just ran. And we get the result, the actual value the method returned. Then we log it, just like we're documenting the whole thing for our tech vlog, perfect for debugging, tracking what's happening, or just keeping tabs on your service layer. So yeah, every time your data layer method finishes, this advice pops up, records the method and its output, and lets you continue with your app. Super clean, no code duplication, full visibility. This annotation-based and after-throwing advice is used to automatically intercept any method that throws an exception and run custom logic after the failure happens. It captures which method failed via join point, what exception was thrown via the exception parameter. This is useful for error logging, alerts, auditing, and debugging, all without changing your business logic. An after advice is executed after a method completes, no matter what happens inside. If the method returns normally, advice runs. If the method throws an exception, advice still runs. It always executes after the method is done, like a finally block in Java. When you use annotation-based point cuts, the advice will intercept only the methods that have a specific annotation. Around advice, which is like the superhero of all advices. Why? Because it doesn't just run before or after a method. It literally wraps around the entire method call. Let's break down what's happening here. First, the moment a business layer method is called, this advice steps in and says, "Hold on. Before that method runs, let me start my timer." Boom. Start time recorded. Then we call pjgp.proceed. This is where the original method actually runs, like pressing play. We grab whatever the method returns. Could be data, could be an object. Whatever the method gives, we catch it. And here's the cool part. Even if the method throws an exception or finishes normally, a finally block always executes. In that block, we say, "Okay, timer stop." How long did that take? We calculate the time and log. Time taken for this method equals sign xm super, useful for performance monitoring, debugging slow APIs, or profiling your application. Then we return the original result so the flow continues normally. That's at around total control before and after the method, like putting the method in a wrapper. Instead of sprinkling long execution patterns all over your advices, like putting execution perused com.xyz.service *** on every method, let's clean it up. The best practice is to create one central class. Think of it like your AOP control center. Inside this class, you define all your point cuts. One for business layer, one for service layer, one for DAO, layer 1 for controller layer, etc. And now, instead of writing huge execution strings again and again, your advices just refer to super clean, super modular. And if tomorrow you change your package structure, guess what? You fix it once, and your whole app updates automatically. This is how pros structure their AOP, centralized, organized, and future-proof. Now all the aspects are changed with the respective layer calls which need to be intercepted. And that wraps up today's session, folks. We covered some solid concepts around Spring AOP, from before advice to after throwing, and even the powerful around advice. If you found this helpful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more Spring Boot, backend, and tech deep dives. Drop your questions in the comments. I'm always here to help you level up your code. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, keep building, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Peace.